All right, everyone, couple major Switch stories we have to talk about, starting with the strong possibility that a major Nintendo franchise could be headed to the PC in a big way. Then the big talking point for today's video has to do with that long rumored subject around new Nintendo Switch hardware being in the works that I'm sure nobody is tired of at this point in time, but we have to discuss some very interesting moves that have been made recently on Nintendo's account around existing hardware models and what, if anything, this means for a potential new hardware reveal coming soon. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, we got a couple different major stories to unpack today, and we have to kick it off with a conversation around Mario Kart and the PC. Now, yes, you heard that right. There is strong evidence that does suggest that, of course, the mobile release of Mario Kart Tour could be headed to the PC, and there's a couple different interesting aspects to this story, as it could really go one of two ways, with either Nintendo getting behind this and marketing it as a official PC release in a big way on their own, or it could definitely be something else that it is in the works from Google directly around a broader conversation of Android apps running on PC specifically. So to get on the same page with what we know so far from a recent data mine, there is a nice summary posted up over on Go Nintendo where it says the following. According to a user on Reset Era, Mario Kart Tour's latest software update added support for a mouse and to be used as an input method. This news allegedly comes from data miners within the Mario Kart Tour community Discord. More evidence for a PC release comes with references in codes to native emulation. Google announced a while back that Google Play games would be coming to PC this year by using high-performance emulation, and Nintendo could be preparing to support their applications for the upcoming service. Nothing is official yet, but don't be surprised if Mario Kart Tour makes its way over to PC soon in one way or another. Nintendo's other mobile games such as Fire Emblem Heroes, Dragalia Lost, and Super Mario Run seem like good candidates for an eventual PC release as well, but we'll have to wait and see if it comes to fruition. Now, clearly, the prospect of Nintendo franchises running in whatever resolution you want and really with unlimited potential natively on the PC is definitely an exciting prospect to entertain, but if I'm a betting man, I do think that this story is probably referencing what Google has planned with Mario Kart Tour and with all the Android apps, to be fair, to get them essentially somewhat natively running on the PC by using that high-performance emulation tactic that was referenced, and I think that's most likely what this is. Yes, you would need things like input support for a mouse control, which I still think would feel kind of weird if we could get this thing up and running on PC and you have like traditional button style controls, and maybe that's not even hard to do, as I think you can actually sync up a Bluetooth controller and get it working through a different third-party emulator. I don't think Nintendo has controller support configured in that game directly, which is just silly to me because that's how I would want to play it. But yeah, you know, you can do things like emulate a mouse or a touch input to a controller ultimately, so maybe we would see some kind of functionality come through with that. But if it's not natively from Nintendo developed for the PC, then we most likely would still have to jump through plenty of hoops to really get it up and running in a fully enjoyable way. And Mario Kart Tour is one of those titles that it's exciting, it's new, there's new tracks being added on all the time, and the support is ongoing for the game, which definitely makes it kind of cool to see what new updates are around the corner from it. But at the end of the day, I just can never bring myself to spend any amount of time on mobile games. Like, even if I'm on the go, I'm more likely to bring my Switch with me and play with that button control layout on Nintendo's own hardware, then break out my phone and play the different mobile games that are available in the App Store. That obviously may be different for different people out there, but I want to hear from you guys on this story in particular. Do you think that this is actually something that does reference Nintendo planning on testing out certain franchises and starting out with things like mobile games coming natively to the PC, and this is a Nintendo initiative themselves? Or are you like me and you think this is most likely that broader Google Play support for Android apps with Windows PCs, and that's likely what this data mine is pointing to, kind of getting that initial support configured and ready before its official launch? So I want to hear from you guys on all things Nintendo and the prospect of future PC ports and or games in the comments down below. Now, the other story we're talking about today is a topic that I don't think any Nintendo fan out there is tired of, and in fact, I think people are actually suggesting that it should be talked about online more. Of course, I'm being sarcastic, but we do have to talk about some interesting moves from Nintendo directly dealing with that long rumored Switch Pro, maybe, and I want to preface this right at the beginning of this conversation, a OLED Lite model could be in the works, because I think that makes a lot of sense to begin with, and we'll break down exactly what's been spotted here. But to kind of kick off this conversation, yes, we we have had a long-standing rumor mill speculation talk that there would be a new Pro model Nintendo Switch that comes with things like 4K dock support via DLSS, upscaling, and last year at this time those rumors were running rampant with companies like Bloomberg and Takahashi Mochizuki actually claiming that yes, independently they have verified that there is mass production on Nintendo Switch hardware. It has a Surface style kickstand, it has a 7-inch OLED screen, and at that time it was also thought to be whatever would be a more powerful revision, meaning not just the same Tegra X1 but rather new tactics built in to support things like DLSS, 4K dock support. And when the OLED model was finally revealed, there was a very split reaction to this online, of course, because people thought, wait a minute, there is a new Switch model, those rumors were true, all of the people predicting this were kind of right, but no, they really missed the mark because it's not more powerful. We're getting the same performance and literally zero benefit in terms of better frame rate and better resolution. So then the Pro rumors were all fake and all of this stuff was just fluff and made up. And of course, clearly people have been tired of the subject because it's been brought up so much, and people are still out there saying right after that OLED model reveal that no, that's not just the only model. There is 4K dev kits out there, with Takahashi Mochizuki specifically calling out 11 different developers that he has independently verified have dev kits, one of them name dropping Zynga, who then had a PR response saying, no, we don't have a 4K dev kit, which, you know, why would you be able to say that if you do? You probably clearly have an NDA signed around that thing, especially if it's unannounced hardware from Nintendo. And you even had that spat with Nintendo's Japanese corporate account essentially targeting Mochizuki's article directly right after that article went live, saying, no, yes, there are definitely dev kits out there. Nintendo essentially refuted all those claims, and you would definitely do that to not cannibalize your brand new model that just came out that could just be a 1-year stopgap from something like a more powerful model. But regardless of all of that information of the story, the reason it is right back in the center of the news today is, well, there's a few reasons. First of all, we're just approaching that timeline that Nintendo has historically done hardware reveals with, both things like the new Switch Lite model and also with that OLED model. And there is an interesting thing that really fueled the speculation talk around this that Nintendo has just done around making their videos private for both of the OLED model and the Switch Lite model, and this is in Japan and in North America. Apparently at this point in time it is still up in Europe, and you may say, well, what does that mean? What do you mean they took their videos private? Meaning you can't find the hardware trailers for the Lite model or the OLED model available on YouTube at all right now. And why would Nintendo even make a move like that? And does that even reference new hardware at all? And there's a kind of an interesting story with this. So first of all, people have noticed online that the Lite model trailer was indeed also moved to private just before the OLED reveal dropped. And this is actually a somewhat common tactic amongst companies that want focus on all of their brand new hardware and nothing of the old popping up in the YouTube algorithm, as even Apple did this with the iPhone 11 right before the iPhone 12 launch, as GameXplain highlighted in their video that they covered on this, which I will also have linked in the description down below. But it's an interesting stat that if you don't want to cause confusion when people are typing in new Nintendo Switch or new Switch model, they don't want to have the OLED and the Lite and multiple other relevant trailers popping up. They want you to just see that one brand new model that was unveiled. And of course, to further add fuel to this fire, we are hot off the heels of Nintendo's annual shareholder meeting, where it was disclosed that their raw materials cost has gone up exponentially, double what it was in 2019, which was already significantly higher than their year in, year out before that. And this has only happened around times where they launch new models. Now, you also had that interesting Nintendo wide care coverage plan, which could be explaining some of that, as you would want to stockpile things like OLED screens or just screens in general and all of the various different parts of both the Switch and the Joy-Con in order to provide some of those repairs. And that's definitely could be a portion of it. However, we're not talking about a small increase. And yes, inflation's a real thing, and there's the chip shortage, and there's all these different things happening in the world right now. But taking all of that into consideration and the Japan only insurance plan, it seems astronomically high. So all of that stuff makes sense to me on this rumor mill talk, and it also makes sense that we know Nvidia had that giant leak that hit them, and the NVM2 folder was spotted, suggesting that yeah, DLSS and the Nintendo Switch chipset in the future are going to go together. We're going to get 4K resolution when docked Switch in the future at some point. You don't run off of a Tegra X1 chip that was originally launched in 2015 for years and years and years to come. Yes, Nintendo has to do a hardware refresh, but whether or not this is it and this is the time they do into it is the hotly debated point, and I definitely think that while there's a possibility that we are talking about and Nintendo could be hinting and gearing up for a Pro model reveal as soon as something like the next few weeks in the July time window where they have historically announced it, I also feel like that timing feels very weird to me, because as much as I want to see that brand new, more powerful hardware, we just got the announcement that Breath of the Wild 2 was delayed to spring of 2023 recently, and would you not position your brand new upgraded hardware right next to a major marquee AAA Zelda title that's going to launch, literally the follow-up to the most successful Zelda game that Nintendo has ever put out? I definitely think that it would make more sense to sell your 4K, more powerful, better frame rate console alongside of that game, justifying a lot of people to make the upgrade right then and there, as opposed to just dropping it as a standalone October time launch release before this holiday season. But Nintendo's unpredictable, and we definitely don't know what they have planned. But that leads me to the portion of the conversation where, yes, this could be a new Switch model. We might be around the corner from seeing it, but there is a strong possibility that this ends up being a Switch Lite OLED model, which is definitely a logical step for Nintendo to make, as the Switch Lite sells very well. It's a $199 entry price point, and for people who only want to have handheld experience on their Switch titles, well, then that's the system for it. And the OLED screen is just miles ahead of what the basic LCD is on the traditional Nintendo Switch and what's being sold on the Switch Lite right now. So maybe this is that new iteration of the family that ultimately just phases out what the Switch Lite is, and they have that come in at a $199 price point, sold alongside the existing family of systems, and then the Switch Lite's discounted to, $150 until they sell through the existing stock, and then it's just discontinued after that. So clearly there's a lot of different variables with this story at the end of the day. I don't blame you guys if you're tired of the topic and you want to just wait and see if Nintendo releases any official statements at all. Definitely interesting though, and I would be on somewhat of a watch for them to kind of potentially be talking about new hardware in the upcoming future, whether that be the Switch Lite OLED or just that surprise drop of the more powerful 4K DLSS Switch. We will have to wait and see. I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and speculation around this. Do you think these videos going private on the existing Nintendo Switch hardware has anything to do at all with a potential for a new model reveal coming soon? Do you think this is an unrelated event and this is something totally separate that Nintendo is doing internally on their YouTube channel and it has nothing to do with new hardware? And then definitely share with me, what timeline do you think makes the most sense for Nintendo to launch something like more powerful hardware? Do they just wait until the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever the true successor is at this point and it comes out at the end of 2024? Or do we have that more powerful hardware refresh happen somewhere alongside of Breath of the Wild 2 or even this year, and then that rides us through the end of 2024 into 2025 before we truly talk about a next generation console? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before we leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, where we go down memory lane together, boot up Donkey Kong Country from the SNES, and have a broad discussion of the brand new trademark that was just filed for DK and whether or not that could tie into a potential new Nintendo Switch game. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.